After the Boston Bruins' brutal 6-1 loss against the Florida Panthers, Jim Montgomery had a lot to say about many prevalent issues that we had seen in this game, addressing some things as well as discussing what could happen before a Game 3. So I'll be talking about that here in this video, as well as some stuff regarding David Pastrnak's fight against Matthew Tkachuk, which should have Bruins fans and players fired up for Game 3. So, like I said, we're going to go through all this here in this video. Before we get into it, though, we noticed that just under 81% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. If you're looking for a spot to get all of your Boston Bruins news throughout this playoff series and hopefully on to 2 more, you're in the right spot. Make sure to hit the sub button. Join me here as we cover this Bruins team with everything that you're going to want to know, and we'll keep you guys updated here with everything that we have to offer. But like I said, let's get straight into the first topic here, which is Monty has discussed Jeremy Swayman. Jeremy Swayman was pulled in yesterday's game after giving up the 4th goal. At that point, I made a prediction in yesterday's video that Jim Montgomery kind of knew that this game was heading in the direction it was, where it was getting a bit physical, a bit chippy, and this game was kind of going to get out of hand. So pull him, get him ready for Game 3, or sit him and get Ullmark some reps in before he does start a potential Game 3, depending on who they start. Now, he did discuss what the reasoning, or not the reasoning, but the situation of pulling Jeremy Swayman here, and this is what he had to say. He said, after landing at Hanscom, no goalie decision yet for Game 3. It does sound like Swayman will be ready to go should he get the call. So that right there sounds like, Jeremy Swayman having probably that slight favorite odds of starting here in a Game 3, just because, 2 losses so far in these playoffs, or the loss here in this series and a loss in Game 2, and the kind of the same scenario where the team really didn't show up, but it certainly was not on him in this game. You can see by his stats, just in this game, not the usual stat line we're used to see from Jeremy Swayman. However, none of this game was on him. Although it does have an .826 save percentage there, that was a lot due to the opportunities that the Florida Panthers were given by some of these Bruins defenders and some of these players. In every scenario, the Bruins really couldn't just get anything done, and that was leading to the situation that Jeremy Swayman was in. So I'm a big fan of the decision to pull him in that game, give him the extra bit of rest, and be able to see from a third person point of view from outside of the game who he needs to focus on, who he needs to learn a bit more on. Although Jeremy Swayman is already fantastic at that, just give him that extra bit of advantage ahead of a potential Game 3 start, opposed to Linus Ullmark once again. But we still don't know anything. Likely, I'm thinking we're gonna see a scenario where it was against the Toronto Maple Leafs. We don't really reveal the goalie until about an hour, moments before game time. So that's kind of the situation I think the Boston Bruins are trying to run with here, regarding their goaltending situation for Game 3. But let's move on to another Montgomery, quote, kind of little discussion. He does it on Charlie McAvoy. Charlie McAvoy really has not been the Charlie McAvoy that we know in these playoffs. He's played some pretty tough hockey, that's no question, but you also have to put into consideration, he's playing 30 minutes a night. He's got a lot more ice time than many players in these playoffs, as well as majority of the players, by a pretty big margin on the Boston Bruins. So this is what he had to say about that. This is from Scott McLaughlin on Twitter. Asked about McAvoy, Montgomery said he didn't have his best game last night, but was far from alone in that. That's very true. Was not just Charlie McAvoy that didn't have his best game. Just about everybody didn't have their best game here in a long time. The fatigue factors in. He's our biggest minute cruncher. He'll be ready tomorrow night. However, this kind of put in my mind that we really haven't seen, like I said, the Charlie McAvoy that we know in these playoffs at all. He's really been lacking. He's not made the best plays. He has not made the right decisions. He's an elite playmaker, elite passer. We really haven't seen that. He's been making some questionable decisions in certain scenarios. Now, I know fatigue is likely, most certainly a factor in this scenario, especially being on I'm going to call it a Game 9 here tomorrow night, since they're on pace to have a Game 9 if it was possible. And that is definitely into consideration. The minutes he's playing a lot more hockey than everybody out there. However, there's opportunities like this, and I've noticed many people are talking about this play in specific, and this is from the spokes tweet from the video. This was right at the beginning of the third period, where he goes down the corner, tries to pass it right to the center ice, and the puck goes right into the slot, right there, as you can see, the puck right in, right below or above the playoff logo, I guess you could say. Goes to a Florida Panthers forward. A shot, no goal because Ullmark saved it, but however, it was certainly noticeable that that was not the right play. And this is what Brian DeFelice, I'm sorry, I might have pronounced that wrong, but it says, injured or not, this sequence is brutal. McAvoy's tape-to-tape passing and decision-making has always been elite. Who is this? And this is what I've seen a lot of people say, especially about this specific clip. And I was wondering the same thing. I remember watching it saying, what's going on here? What's this whole situation? What's happening? We know this is not what the Bruins normally do. We felt the panic, but not the panic button was pressed. So I think the Bruins acknowledged that they didn't have their best game. The plays like this were certainly leading up to what happened at the end of the game. Not so much in the physical aspect of it, but the result. And that's going to have to be cleaned up, really. You know, that's what's going to need to be worked on here in practice tomorrow or today. Or, well, tomorrow morning skate, excuse me. And really ahead of Game 3, that's what they're going to have to focus on. And this play also went on to continue. Another one, the puck was down by the boards on the slot, by the circle, right off the boards. Very weak pass right to their defenseman. So another play where not ideal, not the situation we know the Bruins have liked to be in, and really isn't a scenario the Bruins normally play in. So that's something I think we want to watch, but it's a very interesting quote by Montgomery to say that it's just a normal game or a normal bad game for McAvoy, because it's been pretty consistent. He hasn't mentioned too much on this scenario. So I'll be keeping an eye on this as well. I think we might see some things come out of this next game if this does continue for McAvoy. But on to our final topic here of this video, and this has fans fired up. Let's go. You know, this really is a scenario that we want to see the Bruins fans, the Bruins players in, and that's feeding off the energy of that fight yesterday from David Pastrnak against Matthew Tkachuk. And this is what I have here from Dan Roach. He says, every Bruins player should be ready to run through a brick wall for David Pastrnak after he asked to fight Tkachuk. And then to watch Tkachuk throw a few cheap shots at the end of it too. That really should get on the nerves of every Bruins player that we are going to see in the lineup tomorrow night. In the lineup or not, you need to have that fire after this scenario. You know, we've seen Tkachuk on top throw a few cheap shots on the ground, and then Pastrnak went livid, and as he rightfully should, but you know that you want to stand up for your teammate, the best player on your team, who has been putting everything on the line for you this playoffs. Started out cold, but really has taken a major step up since Game 7 against the Maple Leafs. And this is what he had to say after the game. Quote as saying, I'm not afraid of him, I can take a punch, I'd do anything for these guys here. And if that was not enough, just that fight alone, this quote here should absolutely have you ready to go Game 3. Started out hot, physical, on the offense. Go get an early goal. Go throw an early hit. And get in that game mindset that we need to put these guys lower than they are. We need to put these guys down. We need to take advantage of our strengths, our physicality, and show these guys that we are really a better team. And that's exactly what the Bruins need to do. TD Garden's going to be rocket, so that aspect of things was already covered. We know this is going to happen. The fans in Florida really were a bit questionable for what they were trying to say. You know, they had the energy sucked out of the building when the Bruins scored early. But we know what's going to happen to TD Gardens. The script is going to be flipped in the Bruins' direction. So hopefully that happens on the ice too. But that's all I got here in this video. If you did enjoy, make sure to give it a like. Hit the sub button as well if you do want to stay up to date with all of the Boston Bruins news. Well, you're not going to want to miss it. This series is getting intense, and it's going to be a very, very good one right until the end. So, like I said, you're not going to want to miss it. But that's all I got. Like I said, thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.